Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a Jamaican living in the Netherlands for the past 14 years. Please feel free to subscribe, share, and check out my links. My life in the Netherlands.
What am I going to talk about today? Today I'm going to talk about reggae music in the Netherlands and other European countries. Now, to be honest, I've had a full circle moment doing my research because I finally have access to information I never had access to and never knew I needed access to. Growing up, my dad had a huge stereo and he had some record that he called safety record. Years later, I found out the name for those things was like 50. So big record. And he used to play all these songs, and I never put much thought into the songs that he was playing until now when I've done the research on reggae music and realized the type of music that he was listening to and the link between that music and the American music. So it's like a full circle moment, and I'm learning things that um doing this whole channel, I'm just learning things that I find interesting. I'm like, okay, this is nice to know. I could have definitely go through my entire life not knowing these things, but on the other hand, it's quite informative, and I'm happy I'm learning these things. Something for my brain. So, after 14 years of living in the Netherlands and wasn't really a big part of the dancehall or reggae scene in Jamaica, when I came to the Netherlands, um, I was still shocked at the magnitude that reggae music has slash dancehall on the Netherlands and the rest of Europe. I was constantly asked, are you going to this concert? Are you going to that concert? You doing this, you doing that. It was like, whoa. I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't immersed in that world. Um, I've been to Reggae Sumfest 3 times. That was in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and I went on international nights. So I do have an idea of what things is like, but I'm no expert by any means. So I wanted to know more and to share it. I think it was my third year I was living in the Netherlands, and I was told by an associate of mine that Barry Salmon will be in Willemijn. And so I went there. It was a small club, and it was quite packed. He was in there performing. I believe um, Damian Marley was with him. I'm not sure, but I'm sure Barry Salmon was there. I saw him myself. It was a very small place. It was quite entertaining. I liked it. I really love Barry Salmon music. It's very constructive. However, the club was small and they were smoking marijuana in the club. And smoking and I don't really go together. So my head was hurting. And after he left the stage, I finally decided it was best for me to go home. And then a few years later, a friend of mine told me about reggae jam, summer jam. And she told me that Jimmy Cliff will be there, and I believe it was Yellow Man will also be there. And she was like, I'm going, would you like to come? So I went to, and I was quite surprised. It was just as big as a Reggae Sumfest, and even more because I believe um, that at least 35,000 people was there. I was completely startled. And so there is a Jamaican guy who grew up in England. I remember talking to him about it, and he was telling me, well, it's basically the same thing in England. It's the same thing in Germany. It's the same thing in Belgium and all other European countries. So reggae music slash dancehall however you want to categorize it, it's quite huge in Europe. Now, what I found out since I've been doing this research is that all the music that I grew up listening to, that my dad used to play, actually, um, there was a reason for him listening to those music that he was listening to. Because I found out that Jamaican music actually started with R&B mental, and then it went on to ska, and from there to rock steady, and from rock steady to reggae, from reggae to roots, and from there to dub. Then you have lovers rock, dancehall, digital dancehall, and modern dancehall. Now, when I was growing up, because um, I decided to write them down, so I wrote them down. Everything I could remember, the type of artists that I used to listen to with my dad, and so I made a list of them. So the type of music that I remember, because I was very young, but I remember the songs, and I went searching for the songs to get the name. And I also remember my dad telling me some of the name when I was a kid. I'm number seven. So my mom and dad have been married for 55 years. So I was the baby, the spoiled one. So my dad always have me beside him and giving me all type of information that the older ones never got, I think. So I wrote down the names, the music that I have in my head, and the artists for those music are Sam Cooke, Otis Reddings, Nina Simone, um, Etta James, Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, Billie Holiday, Ray Charles, Miles Davis, Diana Ross, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, Frank Sinatra, and Bessie Smith. Now, the craziest thing is that I have been singing her song to my daughter, one of her songs to my daughter since she was a baby, and didn't realize that that song goes with that name. But I actually know about that name, but I just didn't know that song belongs to her. So I just made a list of what I remember, and I wanted to call my dad to talk to him um, personally to see what he remember. Of course, my dad is now 80 and he's forgetting things, but I was very curious as to why I was listening to these songs. But now I realize that it all collide with the R&B and the jazz and the blues. So this is all jazz and blues intertwined. So it's not like the jazz and the blues was for America or for the Americans only. It was also something in Jamaica, and that also evolves into something else. So I had no idea about that. So no, I think I know why I was listening to that type of artist, the American artist, because it gives a feedback on what we were doing. No, actually, my dad also had record of Dennis Brown and Yellow Man and Bob Marley. That's the king of reggae. So he used to have those records too. He had a lot of them, and he gave them to my older sister, child's dad. And I don't know, he gave some story as to why they went missing. I'm not sure. So he doesn't have them anymore, and that stereo is broken. Okay, furthermore, the reggae music in Europe. When I did my research, I found out that the crowd that the music gather varies from 30 to like 60, 75,000 people depending on the venue and what country it is in. So it's quite big. Now, about 4 years ago, there was a reggae jam or a summer jam in the Netherlands, and there were other reggae festivals. And I remember a friend of mine called and she told me to go on the website, because she was saying, you know, I'm interested in going. Are you interested in going? So I went to have a look at the price of the tickets, and I was quite surprised when I got there. When I got to the site, I realized, as crazy as it may sound, that for the summer jam, there were only like four Jamaican artists. And I was confused. I was asking myself, how is it possible you're going to have a reggae festival without Jamaican artists? It was then I learned something new, that there were other artists around the world that were also involved into reggae music. There were Dutch artists that consider themselves reggae artists, artists from Belgium that consider themselves reggae artists, um, from France, from different parts of Africa, other Caribbean countries. As I said before, I was never fully immersed into the reggae world, so I didn't know these things. So I was like, how are you gonna have a reggae function without Jamaicans? It doesn't make sense. Four artists cannot keep a whole weekend of festival. It doesn't make sense. But there were these artists all over, and so a friend of mine, because I have a few associates, knew one of these reggae artists. And because I was quite curious, I really didn't understand it, and I wanted to get to the base as to why there were so little amount of Jamaican artists on the thing. No, even though I'm not, as I'm continuing repeating myself, I am not a part of the reggae world. It was just so confusing to me, so I wanted to have clarity. So I actually got the guy number because he's a reggae artist, and I spoke with him. And when I called him, I asked him who was playing in the background, if it was Bounty Killer, and he told me it wasn't Bounty Killer, it was him. It was one of his songs. Now, when I said this guy copied Bounty Killer to a T, I really mean he copied him to a T. And even myself, who didn't really emerge into the dancehall world, know a Bounty Killer voice when I hear it. And what I heard, I really thought it was Bunty. So they basically copy us, no disrespect, to a T where they can function pretty well. So we got to talking about the whole situation and what's going on. Why is it that it's only four artists on the list? It doesn't make no sense. And he was explaining that this is alleged. He was saying that the Jamaican artists, they are asking for too much money, that because they were asking for so much money and they want to fly first class and they want to stay in this hotel and they want to stay in that hotel, that the promoters have come to a conclusion that it was taking too much and it wasn't necessary, because the artists in Europe and other parts of the world that they could pay to come, they were much cheaper and it would bring in the same crowd. And I said to him, how could they bring in the same crowd? There is a difference. I mean, you have to have Jamaican artists to have a reggae, successful reggae function. At least that is so in my brain. Well, he was like, well, it doesn't work like that. Basically, once the sound system is there and you have records from original Jamaican artists by, for example, if you have records of Bounty Killer and Beanie Man, and you have records of Bob Marley and the record of Peter Touch and Jimmy Cliff, it's people are drinking, they're smoking, they're dancing, they're having fun. It's more about the beat and not about who is singing what or who is DJing what. It's not. It's more about the fun, just enjoyment. So I guess I've been living in a different world, as most of my friends have been saying for years, because when I listen to music, I normally listen to the words, because that was what my dad taught me when I used to listen with him when he was playing, he would say, "This is the artist, listen to the words." So I function from the words and not the beat. Now that I'm older, I've come to realize that people normally function from the beat and not the words. So yeah, that's why my friends always call me the boring one, the one that spoiled the party, because I listen to the words, and if I don't like the words, I don't move. I just sit at one spot and I just drink my cola and enjoy myself that way. So apparently, the Jamaican artists, they're asking for too much money. They want to stay in expensive hotels and fly first class, and there are other people delivering the same thing, which to me doesn't make sense. It is what we delivered is original. Whatever we deliver, it's completely original. And reggae music is from Jamaica. I actually did some research on it when it started, late 60s, and in the 70s it take off, and before you know it, it went international. And in the 70s, late 70s, the dancehall emerged, and in the 90s it started to go worldwide too. So in my honest opinion, the reggae music, if there is going to be a reggae function, no disrespect to the other artists around the world, but it should be Jamaican reggae artists headlining the function at the beginning of the function and ending the function, and whosoever from wherever would like to fill in could just go ahead and go in the middle. That's the way I see it. But if the promoters are saying that it's too much money and we can't take it, so it is what it is. So I guess it is up to the Jamaican artists to look in themselves and see, are we overcharging or not? And are we asking to fly first class when it's not necessary? Just look at different points. The pay to come, the flying, the hotel. Do we need to stay in a five-star hotel? I don't know what they're staying in, five class. Can't we stay in a four class? If it's a four, can't we stay in a three class? Because at the end of the day, if this is what happening, then eventually Europe and other countries won't need us if they're having their own reggae artist that is bringing in the same crowd. They won't need our artists, and financially it's not going to work out for them if that's their only stream. And what I have also noticed is that for the artists in Jamaica, I don't see them expanding to other things. Like, that is what I've seen. I don't know what they're doing, but that's what I've seen, is that I don't see them expanding like American artists, that they're having clothes line and shoes line and all types of things. Um, I did see something popping up on Facebook about Buju Banton selling stuff or something like that, but there needs to be other stream of income if they can't travel overseas to work because of the money they're asking for. So I think that needs to be addressed and to be looked at. I hope this video was informative, and thanks for watching. Bye, guys.